I'm James Himm Mitchell, and I'd like to welcome you to the Oracle Outlook. In this video, I'll be doing a Lenormand card reading for the week starting June the 13th, 2016, so stay tuned. And here we are with the cards on the table, and the deck assisting me for this week's reading is a newer deck in my collection. It is the Maybe Lenormand. It's by Ryan Edward, and it is published by US Games Systems Incorporated. So again, that's a Maybe Lenormand by Ryan Edward, and I'll have that information about the deck in the description box below. So now, taking the cards in hand, I'm going to shuffle, and as I do for each of these general readings, I always ask the question, like, what do we need to know in terms of possibilities and potentialities for the week ahead? Okay, so now I'm going to cut the deck. And when I do Lenormand readings for the weekly reading, I usually do a line of 5. So I'm going to lay out the top 5 cards from the deck. I'm going to take a moment to adjust that. Okay. So when I read a line of 5, I always start with the middle card in the line, as that tells us what the focus or the central issue for the week might be. So the card is the gentleman. Okay, so whenever the gentleman shows up, it can represent a man as the focus. So in my particular case, the gentleman could be me. And if you are a woman watching this, then the man could be a man who is significant or important in your life in some shape, form, or fashion. If you're a man watching this, then just like me, the man could represent you. So now, the man doesn't offer us any other information other than the central issue is connected to a man. So we'll look at the cards that are immediately flanking the man to see how they would offer some more insight into the central issue. So on the left of the man, we have the book. Oh, this is funny. And then to the right of the man, we have the stars. Oh, I'm loving this. Okay, so for me, on the left side, we have the book, and so the book can just represent knowledge. The book being closed can represent hidden knowledge or secret knowledge or something that is a mystery because it's not open to the public. It's not for public consumption. So there could be some secret or some mystery about a man, or it could be that he has some sort of hidden knowledge or knowledge that's not open to the public. So since the book is behind the man, it could be like he has a secret about his past, because I read anything behind the man because he's facing this way. So anything behind him would be something from his past. So it could be like a secret or some sort of mystery about his past, something that he is keeping some sort of knowledge to himself. And then looking to the stars, he's looking ahead. So the stars can represent things like guidance, direction, clarity. I'm looking at it as like something inspirational. It could be something of a universal nature, something metaphysical, you know, something having to do with divination. I'm seeing all sorts of things like that. But going back to the book for a second, since the man could be me, I'm looking at the book in this particular case as, you know, a man who may have some education in his background. Literally, the book can represent a book, so it could be a book by the man, so it could be like the man is a novelist or an author. That is not my particular case, but what is true for me is that I sometimes see the book as a deck of cards, and the man, or in this particular case, the man being a reader. So that would fit me, and I'm in the context of doing a reading. And the lovely part of this is that with the stars on the other side, I'm doing it for something that's going to be online, because the stars can represent the internet or something online. So I'm seeing that, you know, and that's just fitting me. It's really personally related to me that I'm actually doing a reading that's going to be posted online. The other thing about the stars would be divination. So it could be a man who has some knowledge or experience as an astrologer. For me, it would be like divination. So again, my knowledge as a reader and my knowledge of cards. But it could be, some other form of occult knowledge. So here the stars could be, like I said, astrology. It could also be metaphysics. So it could be somebody who has a deep knowledge of something metaphysical. So I'm seeing that. It could also be that the man is a novelist or an author who maybe is looking to publish his work online, or present the knowledge in some medium online. So that could be like something like an ebook, that kind of thing. So I'm just seeing that. So that would give us some more insight. So again, the man is the central issue or the focus, and it would be some sort of knowledge that the man possesses, and it could be some form of inspiration for somebody if it's like a woman watching this video. So it could be like you're reading something by a man that is maybe having to do with metaphysics, divination, or something of an inspirational nature, or that the man in question is considered a guru of some kind. I sometimes see the stars as like having a guru kind of knowledge, that kind of energy. But something that's either inspirational, something having to do with divination, something having to do with metaphysics, or even, that something having to do with life coaching. Anywhere where the knowledge may be about guidance, direction, and insight. So I'm seeing that. So now looking to the outer cards, we have on the one side, we have the Rider on the left side, and on the right side, finishing out the line, we have the Clover. Okay, this is lovely. Okay, so on the one side, we have the Rider. So the Rider represents news or messages. It could also represent something coming in, something arriving, because the Rider for me represents arrival and visiting. So I'm seeing that as a possibility, but it would just be about news or messages either being sent or received. And then on the other side, we have Clover. Clover is a card of luck. And so there are 2 luck cards in the deck. So the Sun card, which is not present in the line, represents like big luck. And so the Clover is like the opposite of that and represents little luck. So this represents an opportunity. This represents good luck, good fortune, something that is small, or something that's going to be short term, or something that's brief. So those are associations I have with the Clover. So if we go here with the past, with the man still being the focus, it could be news, about a book, or news of a book that, focuses on the man. So I'm seeing that. Or news that maybe has been sent through a reading. Like for me, I've had clients this week, so it could be I may get news or messages that pertain to a past reading I did, since the man is not facing the book. So I'm seeing that as possibilities. Could also be, like I said, news of a book that's been written by a man in some shape, form, or fashion. And then on the other side, we have stars and we have Clover. So it could be, an opportunity online, or an internet opportunity, or, something inspirational that leads to an opportunity. I'm seeing that as a possibility. So there's a big, strong thing about something leading to something having to do with the internet, or something online, or an opportunity for I'm seeing this like if you go with the stars, like celebrity status, or that kind of thing, or an opportunity that leads to a network or some kind of connection. So I'm seeing that because the stars can sometimes represent a connection. So but I'm seeing that, so it could be like there's an opportunity the man's going to face that's going to be good luck for him, or something fortunate, or things of that nature. So that's how I would read the line, like news of a book by the man, leads to an opportunity online. So again, somebody watching this video, is if you're in the process of writing a book, it could be saying too, like there may be some hope or some sort of inspiration for you to do something with it online. It could lead to a future opportunity. So that's how I would read the line. So the next thing we can do is we can go to the playing cards, because when I read Lenormand, I look at 3 facets of it. So we've looked at the central image and the keywords associated with that. And now we can turn to the playing cards to see what additional information they would offer. And so now we're going to turn to the playing cards for additional information. And so the first thing that strikes me about the playing cards is that we have, from right to left, with the Rider we have the 9 of Hearts. With the book, we have the 10 of Diamonds. The man or the gentleman is the Ace of Hearts. The stars is the Six of Hearts, and then the clover is the Six of Diamonds. So 3 of the 5 cards come from the suit of hearts. So this could be about something that is a beloved thing. If we go with the book connected to the man, it could be the idea here, like the project or the book or the course of study or whatever it is that the book represents. For those of us watching the video, it's going to represent something different based on where we're at in life. Then the hearts would suggest something that, you know, is loved. You know, that kind of thing. It could be about love itself. It could be about something having to do with one's domestic life, because I sometimes read the suit of hearts in cartomancy as domestic matters or affairs. So I'm seeing that as a possibility. And then the other 2 remaining cards are from the suit of diamonds. And so diamonds can represent the material world. So it could represent like things like career, money, resources, things of that nature. So there's that information from the suit. So it could be like maybe the idea of like maybe somebody doing something that they love, going with the hearts, but also in a way that allows them to get paid, you know, make money at it with the diamonds. So I'm seeing that as energy. So what I do for the dynamics is I tend to look at the cards on each side of the central issue. So if we go with the idea here that the focus is on the man, so then the 9 of hearts and the 10 of diamonds would represent one side of the issue or one side of what's factoring in for the man, and then the 6 of hearts and the 6 of diamonds on the other side. So going with that, we have 9 and 10, like I said, and so that represents, or adds to rather, 19, because I add the 2 digits together. And so the 19th card in the deck is the Tower. And so here we go, here's the Tower. So the Tower is a card that can represent a company, a corporation, a firm. So going with the news about a book, possibly, or, you know, news and knowledge. It could be like, if this is actually a book, then the Tower could represent like a publishing house, a publishing company, you know, and then the writer would be like receiving news or messages about that project from this firm. You know, it could be like something being formalized with a company pertaining to some sort of knowledge, some sort of information, some sort of insight. It could also be, too, since book represents knowledge, it could be like a learning institution. So it could be like maybe a course, an actual teaching or training course that's going to be presented by a company or corporation, but it's actually the genesis of it, or at the foundation of it, or the root of it, is a single man. So it could be like a man who's a novelist or a writer has written a book about some particular kind of study, is maybe making it more formalized, because I see this as something formal or something traditional, something that has a possibility to reach more people, but it could be like through a large company. You know, I'm seeing it as something large scale. Now, for me personally, the Tower can represent self-employment, you know, and doing freelance work. So for me, since I could be the man, or in my particular case, and it could just represent the work that I'm doing maybe becoming larger in scale. So I'm just seeing that, or I'm going to, you know, be reaching more people, that kind of energy. And so I also said too that the book can be something that's closed off from people, you know, knowledge or information that's not for public consumption. Then the Tower card can represent like a case of isolation, you know, solitude, solitary confinement, things of that nature. So it could just be too like reinforcing the idea like this person keeping the knowledge to him or herself, you know, and like being in their kind of like ivory tower kind of thing, but it's like a period of withdrawal, you know, and separation. So there could be a possibility with that. On the other side, we have the 6 and the 6, so that's 12. And the 12th card in the deck is birds. And so birds for me is a card, and here we go, a card that can represent communication and conversation. That's my first go-to meaning for birds. So it could be whatever this knowledge is here on this side, that the man could be speaking about it or talking about it. So this could be like giving a lecture, giving a workshop, could be talking about it in a podcast or an interview. And that would make sense too if we go with stars being something online or something having to do with the internet. Then the podcast would make more sense with that as well. Also too, it could be like maybe sharing knowledge through social media, because I'm seeing with the stars as something online, then the birds could be like tweeting about it, because I tend to look at the birds as like Twitter, tweeting, and then with that it could just encompass all forms of social media. But that could just be the idea here, that it's going to be on social media. And then with that, it could be the birds can represent like excitement or something being made popular. So it could be like, I see like people talking about it. So there could be like, the idea of chatter. I'm going to go with, I'm hearing the word buzz in my head. So, something that's going to be creating a lot of buzz, or that the opportunity for buzz is going to be created with it online. But I'm seeing like whatever this is that this man is creating or generating with his knowledge, it's giving a way in his future for people to talk about it. So now here's the thing. If we look at these as two different sides of the same coin, then the challenge here is that maybe the man is one for, keeping to himself. He likes his isolation. He likes his quiet time, his me time. But maybe if he's looking to share the knowledge with other people, then on some level he has to be willing to maybe get out there and talk about it more with people. And that may be kind of maybe a source of anxiety, because the birds can represent from an emotional standpoint anxiety, or maybe that's something that's a little bit of a frustration for him, especially if he feels like he has to go out and talk to people. He may feel more comfortable talking to people one-on-one, because the birds can represent like a couple, or, since there's two, I look at it as one-to-one conversation. So it could be like he's more comfortable with that, and the idea of talking to a wider group of people, if you go with the idea of like internet being a wider group of people, like a network kind of thing, and having to actually, or maybe having to actually network, then that could be maybe a source of frustration and anxiety, and he would have to work through that. But whatever it is that he's creating, on some level, he's going to be required to talk about it more and more in the future. So I'm seeing that as the possibilities for the dynamics. And so the last thing we can do is that we can add the playing cards all the way across to get what the final message is from the pips. So we have 10 and 9 with these two cards. That's 19. 1 is 20. Then we have 26. And then another 6 is 32. Oh, this is amazing. Okay, so the 32nd card in the deck is the moon. And so the moon, I'll put this right here, right above the man a little bit. So the moon is a card that can represent career. So for someone watching this video, if we're talking about a book in particular, then this could be part of the man's career. If you're a woman and you're reading a book by a man, or you're getting information about a book that's been put out there by a man, then this would be the man is either he's well recognized, because sometimes this is about honoring somebody. The moon is about honor and recognition. It's also about reputation. So it could be like the man has a certain kind of reputation. So I'm seeing that. That's a possibility. Now for me, again, going with this, my reputation, what I'm known for is I'm known as a card reader. So again, it could just be, again, me standing in or focusing on this reputation I have for being a card reader, and then maybe how can I develop that more if I go with the idea here that the man represents me to some degree. So I'm seeing that as a possibility here. But the moon card represents career, it represents reputation, it represents honor and recognition. So it could even be like the person is going to receive some kind of award, possibly, for maybe this book or this knowledge that has been put out into the world. It could be like the opportunity there is for a greater sense of recognition. So I'm seeing that as a possibility. And then the last thing I will say, with the moon card, with the inset here, we have the 8 of hearts. I always look at that as offering timing. Both the Moon and the Eight of Hearts offer it a month in time. So someone watching this video may, within the month, a full lunar cycle, achieve or receive some sort of honor and recognition, and it would be tied to his career. So I'm seeing that as a possibility. So that would be how I read the playing cards. And so now we've done 2 out of the 3 facets of the Lenormand for me. First, we looked at the symbols and the keywords associated with those, and then we looked at the playing cards. Now we're going to see what the essence is, and we're going to get that from the numbers attached to each of the cards. All right, so like I said in the previous segment, we looked at the keywords that are associated with the image on the cards. Then we looked at what the hidden dynamics were being offered through the playing cards, and now we're going to round things out by looking for the essence card, and that comes from adding the numbers on the cards themselves. So we have, going from left to right, we have 1 with the Rider, 26 with the Book, 28 with the Gentleman or the Man, 16 with the Stars, and 2 with the Clover. That gives us a total of 73. So the way this works for me is that when we have a number over 36, because there are 36 cards in the deck, I take the digits and add them together. So in this case we have 7 and 3, and that adds to 10. And then the 10th card in the deck is the Scythe. So the Scythe can have its challenging aspects of it, and I have come up with a positive spin on the card. So as soon as I find it, and I went past it, oh, here we go. Okay, so this is the Scythe. So the Scythe is a card that can represent a split, it can represent a break, it can represent something sudden, something unexpected. It could represent like needing to cut something out, needing to eliminate something. So my first impulse with that, just as I was talking about that, the first thing I'm thinking is if we take the look at the Man and the Book, let's say. So it could be like the Man may need to be making some edits, because the combination of Book and Scythe for me can represent like editing a book. So it could be like maybe the book, if it's done, if it's completed, like let's say the book is actually the manuscript. So let's say that it's completed, it's in the hands of the publishing house going with the Tower, then it could be like an editor is looking at it, going with the Tower, and the Scythe could be an editor going through that and doing some edits on it. So I'm seeing that as a possibility. Now, in terms of me, since the Man can represent me, and the book in this particular case could be a reader, then for me, whenever I see the Scythe in this context, I always look at it as like sharpening my skill, because the Scythe is something that's sharp. So it would be like sharpening my skill and working with the cards in a way to help me become more precise and more accurate. And that is particularly true in the case of reading Lenormand, since this is the focus of this week's reading. Is like when I got into picking up this particular system of cards, the divination aspect of it, going with the stars, fascinated me, and I tend to read tarot, which is the other medium that I use. I tend to read tarot more from a spiritual and psychological aspect of it. So I don't really look at it in terms of making predictions. Yes, you can make short-term predictions with tarot, but my use of it is more like spiritual psychology. But with Lenormand, was created as a fortune-telling system. So the idea here, when I picked it up, I liked the idea of wanting to work on being more precise in terms of prediction and fortune-telling, and that the stars would be divination. So that was one of the reasons why I gravitated to Lenormand. And so for me, this could just be like me becoming more precise and accurate in terms of my predictions. So that's a nice thing to see. So I'm seeing that as, sharpening one's tool, one's craft, going with the idea here that the Scythe is actually a tool that can be held, so going with that as energy. So I'm seeing that as somebody maybe doing book edits, cutting things out, eliminating what doesn't work, that kind of thing. It could also be like maybe making something more concise. It could be making something more short, concise, to the point. I'm seeing that. And in terms of the combination of Scythe and birds. It could also be like in terms of communication. I always see these pairing as, you know, if you're having to talk, how can you really get right to the point? It could be like, what's the point? You know, how can you make it concise? How can you make it brief? How can you, if you are doing an interview or a podcast kind of thing and you're talking to someone else, be mindful of like not cutting people off or cutting people short, you know, that kind of energy. I'm always seeing this as communications. So it could also be too, if you're communicating through the internet, it could be like people are busy, and so it could be like if you're sending messages, going with the writer, if you're sending messages, how can you, instead of writing a book, how can you make it short and sweet and get to the point? You know, because we all have, you know, busy lives, you know, we're all, you know, kind of stretched for time, and so how can you honor the other person's time? How can you make it more valuable? Now, keeping in mind with all the diamonds on the card, and the Scythe is the Jack of Diamonds, so we have another diamond card here. How can you honor people's time? Their time is their greatest resource, so how can you honor their time, going with the moon being honor? How can you honor their time and get right to the point? So I'm seeing that as a possibility. So this has been the Oracle Outlook for the week using the Lenormand. I am James Himm Mitchell, and as I sign off, I want to thank you for sharing this space here with me. I hope you found this week's reading informative, helpful, going with the book. I hope you found it knowledgeable. And I look forward to sharing this space here with you again in our next Oracle Outlook reading. And until then, I'm hoping that you have a wonderful day. I'm hoping you have a wonderful week. And until we get together and talk again, take care.